Now for this piece, this is the right side. There's only a 3.5 degree bevel on the edge here, so it's not going to require any elaborate jig. As a matter of fact, just the swivel of the head on my pony clamps will do the job. To get this piece to sit a little proud, I've just gone ahead and set this down on a piece of rubber mesh here, which gives me just enough height on that where if I slide this in along the bottom, you know, let it sit on the bench here, it'll have about the right gap that I need. So let's go ahead and glue this one up. I'll be attaching the sides to the bottom and the top using 3/8 inch dowels, 1.5 inches long. So I'm drilling holes into the bottom right now using a guide block that I made with a 3/8 inch hole in it to keep my bit perpendicular to the surface. I'm going down about 5/8 of an inch. Allowing a little bit of extra room for this point, so I don't want to pop through the bottom of the 7/8 inch bottom board here. And when I'm done with this, I'll put dowel points, center points in these holes, and then set the top on there, mark where those holes are supposed to be. Do the same thing with the sides. I'll mark where the holes need to be using the same dowel center points, and then I'll drill everything, and we'll be able to dry assemble. So first thing I do is I just go ahead and line up my point on a mark. Make sure that I got my block seated and that I'm nice and perpendicular in the hole. Hole's getting a little bit worn, so I have to eyeball it some. And then start. Go down a little bit of the ways and then clear out the chips and then finish up the hole. By the way, I put a guide collar on the bit here to mark the depth, a depth collar. And there we go. Just do the rest of the holes and we'll be done. Okay, this next part is kind of critical. The holes for the dowels have been drilled in the top and the bottom and on the right and left side. Now there's an intermediate shelf that sits up about here. It's actually the bottom of the showcase portion, but it's the top of where the TV box goes, and the tambor doors fit below it. So it's important that thing fit exactly within the confines of the walls and or the sides, that is, and the back. So what I've done is I've laid my template here, and I've gone ahead and put 4 dowels in 4 of the corner holes with a template flat, and now I'm going to take the sides and install them. There we go, a little dry fit. I'll do both sides and then I'll do the top on there. And once I have that, then I'll be able to trace the exact outline that that intermediate shelf has to be before I cut it. There we go. Now all I got to do is put the top on there and trace away. I made these two spacers out of particle board to hold this mid-level shelf at the right height so that I could then mark the sides and drill holes for the dowels that are going to support this. And now I've got dowel points in those holes, and I'm going to transfer those over here to this side. And it's got to be done kind of carefully because there's a bevel here, and you want this thing to fit correctly once it comes on home. So you got to really kind of index off the back more than anything and bring these things home. And then I'll just use a clamp to help me out so I can mark those points. Just bring this home. And for this other edge, I got to kind of wiggle it a little bit and bring those marks home by hand. Okay, they're hard to see, but, well, actually only one of them's hard to see. The other four are easy to see. Now I'll just mark them with a pen. And I'll be ready to drill holes. Well, I've drilled the holes for the dowels, and now I've just done a dry fit up so I can take some measurements. First of all, I'll be taking a little bit off the front of this shelf, so it should be flush with the side here. Also, I'm getting ready to do the tambor doors that'll be here. So I'll have a fixed piece of American beech on either side, 9.5 inches long, and then the tambor doors will be in the center. So here's my blanks for the fixed piece. I've taken a piece of American beech and just cut it in half, and I've also put a bevel on each side to match up. Actually, it fits like this, to match up with the sides. And now what I'll do is I'll take this apart. I'm going to go ahead and finish shaping the front of this, sand this down to size, the bottom as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and trace the curve on these pieces so that I can then shape them to that curve. So the fronts have to be curved. And also, I'll be putting some positioning dowels in top and bottom of these pieces that'll go into the bottom and the shelf here just to keep them positioned. And finally, I'll measure for the groove that I need to cut for the tambors. Okay, here's a part where some careful planning is really going to pay off. I need to cut the 1/4 inch groove for the tambor to slide in. Now there's a couple of requirements got to keep in mind. First of all, when the tambor doors are closed, they got to look right relative to these side pieces that I made. Second, you got to be able to load the door somehow and take it out if you ever need to do, you know, maintenance on it. And so the slot has to go all the way to the back of the piece so you can unscrew the back panel and slide the door out. So what I've done is I've taken my template that I've used, you know, for all the parts so far, and I've cut it to the exact size of the mid-level shelf. I've taped it down here, and then I've drawn the groove that I need using a flexible French curve. I've drawn that groove, being careful to make sure that it lines up properly with these pieces. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this template and put it on a piece of hardboard, and I'm going to trace that outline on the hardboard with carbon paper, cut this, and this will be a guide for a router. The router will have a template guide on it and a 1/4 inch bit. I can attach this to the bottom, cut the groove. I can then attach it to the bottom of that mid-level shelf and cut the groove, and I should be guaranteed that these two grooves will line up vertically. And at that point, the hard part's pretty much done.